Welcome to CBN NewsWatch. It is Wednesday, August 18, 2021. Coming up, booster shots for fully vaccinated Americans are expected to become available soon. We'll bring you the details. Plus, it's the first anniversary of a transformational moment in history, the Abraham Accords peace agreement.
This has been a very unique opportunity between UAE and Israel to come with an agreement of peace and tolerance together.
Chris Mitchell explores what's ahead. And it's an ongoing battle between China and India for the Himalayas.
Both India and China are nuclear-armed countries, and so if a confrontation does take place on that border, it would be problematic for the world and for the United States.
Senior international correspondent George Thomas takes a closer look at what this escalating tension could mean for America and the world. All this and more are coming up next.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
And we begin this half hour with the Biden administration expected to recommend COVID-19 booster shots for fully vaccinated Americans. The news comes as hospitals and hot zones are seeing more hospitalizations every day. Charlene Aaron has our top story.
As early as today, federal health officials could recommend an extra dose of the vaccine for all Americans 8 months after their second shot. The move is driven by the spread of the Delta variant and evidence that the vaccine's protective effect wanes within months. People over the age of 12 who are fully vaccinated with Pfizer or Moderna could be asked to roll up their sleeves for a third COVID-19 booster shot. This after recent findings that the Pfizer vaccine's ability to protect from the virus diminishes after 8 months.
Vaccine protection does gradually wane over time. In the Israeli data, the people who got immunized in January are the ones that are now having more breakthrough cases. That's the same thing we're starting to see in the U.S. data.
The booster shot will be given in the order that people got the first round of vaccines, 8 months after their second shot. First in line, healthcare workers, nursing home residents, and other older Americans who were the first to be vaccinated last December.
We have long anticipated that there would likely be a coronavirus booster that might be on something like an annual basis, just based upon our response to other viral vaccines and experience we have with coronaviruses in general. So it doesn't come as a big surprise.
The push comes as cases of the highly contagious Delta variant explode across the country. Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who is fully vaccinated, tested positive for COVID on Tuesday. His office saying he is in good health and experiencing no symptoms. But deaths from the Delta variant now stand at approximately 500 each day, up over 130% since last month. Hospital ICUs in hot zones like Alabama are filling up with younger patients.
Losing within a week 3 patients under the age of 40. Just very heartbreaking.
The University of Mississippi's Medical Center now building a second field hospital to handle the surge. Meanwhile, experts worry that the call for boosters could discourage Americans who are already hesitant to get their first COVID-19 shots. If the FDA greenlights a third booster shot, the first doses could be distributed as early as September. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Afghanistan could become once more a breeding ground for terrorism. This as the Taliban declares full control of the country. Thousands are trapped and trying to escape, including Americans. Caitlin Burke joins us now with more.
In a press briefing, the Pentagon said it now has the ability to evacuate 5,000 to 9,000 people a day from Kabul airport. While those efforts continue around the clock, counterterrorism experts warn about who's flooding into Afghanistan.
And this is the Taliban checkpoint. They are taking the security of the street.
There is real concern that with the Taliban back in charge of Afghanistan, that al-Qaeda is going to be able to rebuild its networks in that country.
Nathan Sales is the former ambassador at large and coordinator for counterterrorism at the State Department. He says one of the terms of President Trump's deal with the Taliban was that they break all ties with al-Qaeda. They haven't done that.
Just a couple of weeks ago, the United Nations released a report about the relationship between Taliban leaders and al-Qaeda. Unfortunately, that relationship remains robust.
Many foreign services and intelligence officials believe the Taliban's victory has re-energized other jihadists around the world.
Unfortunately, the stage really has been set for al-Qaeda to reassert itself in Afghanistan to our detriment.
Previous intelligence estimates suggested it would take up to 2 years after a full U.S. withdrawal before al-Qaeda could again pose a threat to the United States. Sales tells CBN News the Taliban victory changes everything.
They see Afghanistan as the site of a great victory. They will try to pull recruits into Afghanistan to fight for them in much the same way that ISIS was a magnet for jihadists from around the world into Syria and Iraq several years ago. Al-Qaeda is going to take a page out of that playbook and look to reconstitute their networks there.
The intelligence community has been warning the Biden administration that pulling forces there would hurt our ability to contain extremist threats. Biden, though, maintains counterterrorism efforts don't require boots on the ground.
In order to do counterterrorism, you need to have intel. You need to know where the bad guys are located, and you need to know what they're plotting. And in order to collect that information, you need to have drones flying overhead, vacuuming up signals intelligence. And you also need to have a network of spies, human intelligence assets, who are collecting information.
A U.S. presence in Afghanistan offered reassurance to our assets on the ground that they would have protection if they were discovered. With our withdrawal, Sales says those abilities have been eliminated outright or dramatically reduced. The Taliban held their first official press conference today, a spokesman claiming Afghanistan is now free after 20 years of occupation. He claims that the rights of women will be protected within the framework of Islam and that they want peaceful relations with other countries. Meanwhile, Afghanistan's vice president is now claiming that he's in charge, and he's encouraging Afghans to rise up against the Taliban. Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
Friday marked the one-year anniversary of a peace deal most people never saw coming, the Abraham Accords. At first, they involved Israel and the United Arab Emirates, but soon other doors opened as well. CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell takes a look at the impact of this historic creation and what lies ahead.
When Israel and the UAE normalized relations, it became the first peace agreement between the Jewish state and an Arab state in 26 years. Within 4 months, Bahrain, Sudan, and Morocco also signed onto the Abraham Accords.
It is very rare that there's an opportunity for a win-win that can be transformational, not just for a country, but for a region. And the Abraham Accords is that transformational moment in history.
What makes these agreements different is the focus on including business, tourism, education, and research between the countries. That's helped open the doors to nearly $2 billion worth of business deals.
This has been a very unique opportunity between UAE and Israel to come with an agreement of peace and tolerance together.
What this has done is realign the Middle East between countries that want peace and prosperity and countries that want to continue to battle age-old conflicts.
Jerusalem Deputy Mayor Fleur Hassan Nahum and Abdullah Bakr worked together on the UAE-Israel Business Council.
The Abrahamic Accords, it's not about the Jews and the Muslims. It's also have other nationalities, other religions that they're involved into this, because we all live together.
We hope that the momentum that is created will be enough for other countries to join the alliance of the good countries in the Middle East.
When it comes to the Accords, the United States played a major role, including players like R.E.A. Lightstone, former advisor to the U.S. ambassador to Israel.
There was an artificial line dividing Israel and other nations in the region and beyond, and it just didn't make sense.
Lightstone says the U.S. brought allies together, erasing unnatural divides and trying to remove the hurts.
Look at the places that are pillars of hope and light for the region. Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates, and obviously the State of Israel. When they can work together, it's going to drive more opportunity for more people in the region.
Given the recent leadership changes in the U.S. and Israel, some fear the Accords might not last.
The Abraham Accords and peace in general is not a Republican thing. It's not a Democrat thing. It's an American thing.
You know, the Americans did the fantastic thing of creating the circumstances for this peace and pushing us all together. But now that it's been signed, everybody's 100% committed, and now it's got its own legs.
Lightstone's advice to those on the outside is to continue to pray.
They're called Abraham for a reason. This is the reunification of Abraham's children. This was brought together by the United States of America, who saw the region clearly, embraced our friends, and made very clear demands of our enemies.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News.
Coming up, a face-off between two nuclear-armed Asian giants. But what would this clash mean for the U.S. and the world? You'll find out next.
I am Region's first ROTC graduate student.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Wednesday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
How'd you like to get a redo on your health, on your body, on your arteries, so you could have the energy you had 20 years ago? The great news is you can. I'm Dr. Mike Roizen, chair of the Wellness Institute at the Cleveland Clinic. I've written 4 New York Times bestsellers. But even better than having to read all that, you can listen to this DVD and watch it. Protect your heart? Yes, you can. Here's how.
Go to CBN.com or call 1-800-700-7000 for your free copy of Protect Your Heart. Let the medical experts show you their new discoveries on how to avoid heart disease and even reverse it. Easy steps to uncover the hidden dangers in your medicine cabinet, reduce stress, and get a complete do-over for your health. Call 1-800-700-7000. That's 1-800-700-7000. Or go to CBN.com to claim your free copy of Protect Your Heart.
Welcome back. Here's a look at some of the other stories making headlines in the CBN newsroom at this hour. Pastor Miles McPherson is asking the public to pray for his wife, Debbie, who is hospitalized with complications of COVID-19. He says she is showing signs of improvement, requiring less oxygen and hopefully release from the hospital in a few days. Republican Texas Governor Greg Abbott tested positive for the coronavirus. Abbott received the vaccine last year and says he is in good health with no symptoms. Samaritan's Purse and other ministries are responding to Haiti after the deadly earthquake that hit over the weekend. Emergency relief supplies are being airlifted to the area. You can get more information at cbnnews.com. 2 Asian giants are facing off in the Himalayas, and both of them have nuclear powers. China has flooded the border between the two countries with hundreds of thousands of troops, and India has ramped up its forces in kind. Beijing is also trying to drive a wedge between Washington and New Delhi. So what does this escalating tension mean for America and the world? George Thomas takes a look.
Just 1 year after a bloody dispute involving Indian and Chinese soldiers, both sides are now deploying more troops along the 2,000-mile border between the two countries.
Now we're seeing on the Chinese side roughly 200,000 troops, according to some estimates, flow into areas around the border.
And what's been seen as the biggest deployment in India's history, some 50,000 additional soldiers, are matching China's current troop strength in the area.
Sources tell us the threat has been clear and present. India's deployment is about preparedness rather than triggering hostility.
What's important is the sort of troops that they have. They have some pretty serious high-altitude fighters embedded among them. This is a serious deployment designed to try to make the PLA be very concerned about doing a land offensive again.
Both sides are said to be building new roads, bunkers, tunnels, runways, and moving in advanced military hardware. The Wall Street Journal reporting that China has deployed surface-to-air missiles and anti-missile batteries, while India has beefed up its air force.
Both India and China are nuclear-armed countries, and so if a confrontation does take place on that border, it would be problematic for the world and for the United States.
6 decades after the Sino-Indian War, the world's 2 most populated countries are still going at it in the Himalayas. The last clash coming in June 2020, when Chinese soldiers took several square miles of Indian territory in the Galwan Valley. Indian soldiers fought back, losing 20 of their own. China says 4 of its men died, though that number is thought to be much higher. It was the deadliest incident between the Asian giants in 45 years. Dozens of high-level talks since then have failed to calm growing tensions between Beijing and New Delhi.
The words and deeds of major military and political officials should help ease the situation and increase mutual trust between the 2 sides.
But it hasn't, leaving India increasingly mistrustful of a powerful neighbor that's pursuing regional and global ambitions.
The overt goal of the Chinese Communist Party is global hegemony, and that begins in the Indo-Pacific. Within the Indo-Pacific region, the biggest counter to their narrative is India. And the goal is basically to fragment and render India inoperative, because India is the best hope for other democracies in the region to try to withstand China's aggressive expansion.
In the past year, Beijing has expanded political and economic fights, spreading to Vietnam, Philippines, Bhutan, Nepal, Australia, and Indonesia.
This is not a one-off that China is only threatening India. This is part of Chinese aggressive behavior against all its neighbors, against any country it considers a rival.
Indo-China watchers say it's all part of President Xi Jinping's goal to also drive a wedge between Washington and New Delhi.
What's very important from an American perspective is to understand that there is an active political warfare campaign designed to make us distrust and dislike India, so that India and the U.S. can't come together to fight what is an existential threat for both of us, which is the Chinese Communist Party.
Meanwhile, top Indian military commanders openly talk about their concerns of a simultaneous conflict with arch-rival Pakistan on its western flank and China to the east. Both countries continue to forge deep military and strategic ties.
You could end up in a 2-front war. You could end up in a war in which, Pakistan engages in a conflict and then China opportunistically goes in to try and seize a bit of territory. So Indian forces are much more stressed now than they were, I think, even a few years ago.
Experts now worry that with these additional troop deployments come possibilities of a miscalculation on either side that could result in more deadly clashes. George Thomas, CBN News.
Still ahead, Aretha Franklin handpicked Jennifer Hudson to tell her story in film. The Academy Award-winning actress and singer takes us behind the scenes of Respect. She's coming up next, right here on CBN NewsWatch.
Daddy?
Yeah, buddy.
How many nickels are in a dollar?
There are 20 nickels in a dollar.
How do birds fly? Does milk really make my bones stronger?
Yeah.
Daddy, when we die, will we go to heaven?
Do you have the answer to life's biggest question? Call the 700 Club. We'll help you find answers to the important questions life brings your way.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs, from health to entertainment. You won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. To watch the CBN News Channel, download the app or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Hello, I'm Dr. David Perlmutter, board-certified neurologist and #1 New York Times bestselling author. Wouldn't it be great to boost your energy, eliminate brain fog, and even reverse brain disease? Well, you can, and I'm going to show you how, along with some of the world's most well-respected brain experts in this DVD, Protect Your Brain.
Get Protect Your Brain, a free DVD only from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
featuring experts on the cutting edge of neuroscience and brain health.
No matter how many times you've failed in the past, you really can do this.
In Protect Your Brain, you'll discover simple strategies to keep your brain young and healthy. Improve your memory. Discover the gut-brain connection. In Protect Your Brain. Get your free copy at cbn.com or call 1-800-700-7000.
If you want to improve the quality of your life, get the DVD Protect Your Brain and get it today.
The Queen of Soul's biopic, Respect, is in theaters now, and there's already Oscar buzz for its star, Jennifer Hudson. Aretha Franklin handpicked Hudson to play the role. Here's a look at her work and our Studio 5 conversation. So, Jennifer, you were actually handpicked by Aretha Franklin to play this role. Do you have an early memory of her?
Wow. I mean, Aretha has always been there. So I can't say exactly what my earliest memory of hearing her music, but again, it's always been there for me. Maybe even unconsciously so. Like, I grew up in a church singing, and I didn't realize until doing research for the film how much her music was a blueprint in the gospel that we were singing in church. So she's always been there, even without me knowing it.
So from the early years to now, here you are portraying Aretha Franklin. How did you prepare emotionally, physically, and musically to become the Queen of Soul?
You first of all can't just wake up and say, I'm going to be the Queen of Soul. It takes a lot of preparation. I work with amazing people in the production, such as dialect coach Tom Jones, acting coach Leland Thompson. Everything played a role in that to develop the character of her. Also being able to know her as well and draw from that, which causes you to care that much more in your delivery of telling such a story. And then musically, that I feel like came first before anything, and is always the introduction for me. In any role that I play, music is always the introduction. So I kind of had a head start with that portion because I've always been a fan of Aretha as well.
As we know, the world shut down because of the pandemic, but now this movie is being released at a time that people can actually see it in the theater. What does that mean?
I am so excited to see Respect come to theaters and that it will bring people together. Aretha brought everybody together in her life through her music, so it's only befitting for everyone to come out to celebrate the Queen in theaters together, celebrating her life. So I'm so excited to see the world be a part of that celebration and honor her the way she should be.
This film's director, Liesl Tommy, has a musical theater background, and I know you've done Broadway as well. What was she like as a director?
Liesl was like a huge key piece in the making and how Respect was made. I think bringing in her theater background and then her amazing direction and perspective gave the film its own unique elements to make it its own, which was necessary to tell the story of the Queen of Soul. She was a true musician, and it came from real life events, and I feel as though Liesl brought those real textures into it by adding real musicians to honor the Queen and allowing it to breathe in real time, which made it that much more authentic and very similar to how theater is done but brought to screen.
A big thing that you and Aretha Franklin have in common is growing up singing in the church. Talk about those similar paths that you two walked.
Oh my God, first of all, just being from the church and people knowing that as a Christian is liberating, and I love that. But for it to be said that both Aretha and I have that similar background is even more like beyond for me. But I think it was the most important factor in this whole thing. Her faith was important to have present in the film, and it was my faith that got me through the film to be able to do it. So that's the premise across the board, the bookends for both of us.
In this film, you show us Aretha at her lowest, but you also show us Aretha in some really joyful times. What did you take away when learning about that joy? What did it teach you?
Wow. You love to see your heroes shine. And so to see, it's so much, it inspires me so much to see an icon and legend, someone I look up to and still look up to, like the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, prevail and go after her dreams and succeed in that from the treasure that's within her. That makes me want to discover my own that much more, and it increases my drive and hunger to want to do it. And that's the power of a role model and an icon such as Aretha Franklin.
And that's just a small portion of tonight's Studio 5 special on the film Respect. You can catch it at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time on the CBN News Channel. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
I think as a father, it's my job, to lead. Just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Orphan's Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphan's Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
Time now for your Wednesday word, and today's word is expectation. Here's a quick reminder for you. Expect God to do exactly what he says in his word. He will do exactly what he said. That's a promise you can bank on. Actor Kevin Quinn, who stars in Disney's Bunked, is just released a new music video. The song is called Wildfire, and it encourages listeners to keep the hope despite negativity. He's looking to release a full-length inspirational album in the near future. And we want to leave you with a little music from his song. Thank you so much for watching CBN News Watch. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Take care.